So now let's talk about the paperwork located at the first campsite. Like I said before, I am not going to use her real name, but I will call her Tanya. And if I had to guess, I would say that Tanya was at the campsite by herself, because it looked like it was mostly a female's belongings left there. Besides 2 containers of men's body wash, there was not anything there that looked like a male's belongings. And I believe that she was there around the end of May of 2015, based on the yogurt cup left at that location with the expiration date of June 2nd of 2015. She also left behind some paperwork that was soaking wet, so I had to dry it off, and I saw that it was records dating back to September of 2014. And on a form from Quest Diagnostics, it said that Tanya was born in May of 1994. So at that time, starting in September of 2014, Tanya was 20 years old. And she had a boyfriend that I will call Brad. And on a document from the 8th Circuit District Court, it said that Brad was born in October of 1992. So he was 22 years old at that time. So I will start with this paperwork from the 8th Circuit District Court in Keene, New Hampshire, because it is the paperwork with the earliest date that I could see on it. So on September 24th of 2014, Brad had been arrested for violation of probation and had to serve 90 days in jail. And on that paperwork, Brad's home address was listed as 6 Summit Road in Keene, New Hampshire. And I drove over there and saw that it is most likely a building in this large condo complex. So based on that date on their paperwork, Brad would be released from jail at the end of December of 2014 after serving 90 days at the Cheshire County Correctional Center. Then the next consecutive date I could find on what they left was on a Cheshire County Jail commissary receipt, and it was dated October 16th of 2014. And a commissary account is a way that people in jail can buy additional food and supplies like pens, paper, toothpaste, a radio, more food, because what they give you to eat in jail is barely enough to live on. And so if you are able to get a job at the jail, you could get money on your commissary account that way, or if you are lucky, you also got some friends or family on the outside who will put some money on the books for you while you are doing time. So since Brad and Tanya both had the same last name, and found with her belongings was a commissary receipt for Brad, I guessed that maybe she was putting money in Brad's commissary account because she was his wife. And if that was the case, they both probably lived at that condo at 6 Summit Road before Brad was arrested on a violation of probation charge. The next consecutive date is on a pay stub from Friendly's restaurant. The pay date was February the 6th of 2015. The pay stub has Tanya's name on it, and the pay period was between January the 19th and February the 1st of 2015. Yet there is nothing written on it about when she started working at Friendly's restaurant. So she obviously worked at Friendly's restaurant, and since she left the menu and her name tag at that campsite, I would guess that she was still employed there at the end of May 2015. I don't know any other reason why someone would keep stuff like that around from an old job, especially if they had to carry it around. That would probably be something that you would throw out if you didn't work there anymore. So I think that she still worked at Friendly's when she was homeless at that campsite at the end of May of 2015. So the next consecutive date on paperwork was from the Cheshire Medical Center, which is the hospital in Keene, New Hampshire. And the paperwork is for Brad. And the date is February the 4th of 2015. So Brad is obviously out of jail now. And it is 1 o'clock in the morning. And Brad has to go to the emergency room for a headache. So that must be one hell of a headache to have to go to the ER for at 1 o'clock in the morning. So on Brad's paperwork, the ER writes, I quote, "The cause of your headache today is unclear, but it may be a tension headache caused by stress or a migraine headache." And I cannot read the whole thing because of the water damage, but I believe that they prescribe him Motrin and then give him a follow-up doctor's appointment. Now, on that paperwork dated February the 4th of 2015, Brad's home address is listed as 17 Lamson Street in Keene, New Hampshire. And also found were two other bills from Keene's Cheshire Medical Center addressed to Tanya, where her address is also listed as 17 Lamson Street in Keene, New Hampshire. And after looking up Lamson Street and then driving over there, I saw that it is a shelter for homeless people called 100 Nights. So I have video of that facility coming up where you could see the outside of 100 Nights, and it looks more like a New Age bookstore than a homeless shelter. And based on what they write on their website, they call it 100 Nights because it is only open as a shelter 100 nights a year, starting December 21st and ending on March the 31st. And they advertise on their website that they call themselves 100 Nights because they provide shelter to the homeless on the 100 coldest nights of the year. So I guess that sounds great to the yuppie establishment scum that run the place, who never spent a single night out in the cold as a homeless person. And so they are so out of touch with reality that they don't think it gets cold enough in October, November, or December for that matter to stay open for more than 100 days a year. So they open at the end of December and they close at the end of March. And this year, 2016 in Keene, New Hampshire, it has snowed twice so far in April, and it is freezing cold out at night. But on the 100 Night Shelter website, you could read that the staff would like to thank everyone who made the 5th annual masquerade ball a success. So the people who run the 100 Night Shelter like to dress up in masks for 5 years straight and throw masquerade balls at the Best Western Hotel to raise money to keep a homeless shelter open for 1/4 of the year. And soon we will see where their young guests end up after spending 100 nights with Pumpkinhead and the zany masquerade ball throwing yuppie scum who run the 100 Night Shelter in Keene, New Hampshire. So I got an idea for you all. Instead of dressing up in your favorite masks and dancing the night away to raise money for your homeless shelter, why don't you all throw the One Night on the Brick fundraiser, where you and your out-of-touch yuppie dirtbag friends have to walk around the streets of New Hampshire for 24 hours straight, not allowed to go inside anywhere or get into your cars. And you could do this for one day before the homeless shelter opens. And I bet that this will put you fat establishment pigs in touch with reality. So the 100 Night Shelter was where Brad was staying at the start of February 2015 when he had to go to the emergency room at 1 o'clock in the morning for a headache. And I'm going to guess that Tanya was also at the 100 Night Shelter at that time too, because the Cheshire Medical Center sends her 2 bills with 17 Lamson Street listed as her home address, but I cannot see the date because the bills are damaged. So I do not know when either Brad or Tanya moved into the 100 Night Shelter or when they left. But at some point in time, they had lost their home on Summit Road in Keene and had to move into the 100 Night Shelter. And that was most likely when they arrested Brad for a violation of probation charge. And at the probation office, they will violate someone, for example, if they miss a probation appointment or test positive for marijuana. Then the next consecutive date is February the 11th of 2015, found on paperwork again from the 8th Circuit District Court, addressed to Tanya this time. And they state that she must pay $189 to the court, or they will suspend her driving privileges and additional penalties. So I guess that obviously she got a ticket of some sort, and after going to court about the issue, the corrupt local establishment still wants to extort $200 from a young homeless woman. The next piece of paperwork with a consecutive date is March the 13th of 2015, and it is from the Cheshire Medical Center emergency room who treats Tanya for pelvic pain at 10 o'clock at night. And I cannot read the whole thing, but the hospital writes for her to take prenatal vitamins. They also prescribe her 5 milligram pills of the Flagyl medication, Flagyl, and they give her a follow-up appointment with a Tim Fisher, MD. Then it says OBGYN. So from this we learn that Tanya is also pregnant. Then the next consecutive date is on some paperwork from the Keene Metro Treatment Center, dated March 16th of 2015. And it is a letter that confirms that Tanya is prescribed methadone by a Dr. Webb, spelled W-E-H-B-I. And the letter is written and signed by a counselor named Tasha Smith. And the last piece of paperwork with a date on it is also from the Cheshire Medical Center. And it is ultrasound appointment instructions for Tanya, dated Tuesday, March 31st of 2015. So on their website, March 31st is also checkout day for everyone at the 100 Night Shelter. But if you are really lucky, they might hand you a tent. Because also found at the 100 Night Shelter webpage is a wish list, where they ask for donations of food, backpacks, tents, sleeping bags, and tarps that they will obviously give to homeless people in need. Or I guess you could move into one of the vacant and pre-existing campsites down behind the Army Reserve Center, where countless others have obviously ended up. And this seems to be the process of how the Keene government chooses to assist families in need, making it quite difficult, if not impossible, for some to receive adequate help, as we will see as this report goes on.